cool, good. So we got some CS in here for sure, pre-med. Good. Any sophomore or freshman in here? Mechanical engineering, ME? Good. A lot of CS in here. Junior MIT aerospace engineering, good. Information systems, cool, okay, maybe pre-med. So nice mix of majors and everything in here. I'm just kind of reading the chats here. Music, okay, rising junior, good. I'm gonna give it another minute and I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Again, the plan for today is to go through the webinar, or the common application. I'm gonna share my screen in a second, go through a bunch of stuff. Maybe focus in on one school as an example with respect to the supplemental questions. Again, I want to leave time for a Q&A session at the end of this, exercise science coaching. Okay, good. If you guys can hold on to your questions till the end of the webinar, I'd really appreciate that. All right. So let me go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining again. I'm just going to begin by introducing myself. My name is Akbar Rahel. I am the admissions director here at PrepExpert. I have been doing college admissions consulting for a long time now. I think this will be my 27th admissions cycle. I started a very, very long time ago. I did my undergraduate at Berkeley. I went to law school at Georgetown. I worked as an attorney for many years, and all along the way, I taught and tutored SAT, ACT, MCAT, LSAT for law school students. I actually did pre-med as an undergrad at Berkeley as well. SAT 2 subject test, which is something you don't have to worry about anymore. So a whole bunch of tests, including the GMAT and GRE. Ran my own company for over a decade, and that's how I met the owner of PrepExpert, the founder, Sean Patel, maybe like, I don't know what it was, 10, 12 years ago. Make a long story short, many of you know Sean went on Shark Tank, and I came around that time to also start the admissions consulting department. So very quickly, there's two parts to what we do. The first part is working with seniors in the application process. So if you're a senior, we can help you through this entire process, your Common App essay, the supplementary essays, going through the common application together, your activities, talking about your letters of recommendation, talking about your angle in the application process, kind of anything and everything that you can imagine. We lead you through that process, helping you with the early action, early decisions that you have to make as part of the process, coming up with a college list, all that stuff. If you are a junior or a younger student, we work with students as early as 7th, 8th grade. We basically work with you to talk about your testing schedule, your activities, your intended major, what you're doing over the summers, possible research projects, trying to get something published, competitions, kind of anything and everything that you can imagine. We will lead you through that process. So again, two parts to what we do. Working with students and families through the actual application process. If you're a senior, it's definitely not too late, but if this is something you're interested in, definitely come to us, and I'll kind of go over our options at the end of this webinar. And if you're a younger student or family in this webinar, I always encourage you to reach out earlier as well, so we can get started earlier, planning, help you understand all the kind of details of the process and what it takes to really get into a great school. So on that note, I'm going to dive in straight into the common application. I'm going to be speaking a little bit faster than I normally do because I want to cover some more ground. So I'm going to share my screen here. And let's see here. I'm going to come over here, share the screen. Can everybody see my screen now? Just give me a yes, like you can see the screen, and then I'll continue. And again, there is a slight delay on the chat. Yep, you can see the screen. Okay, awesome. So let me go through the common application. I see, I think so. Is this yes, okay, all right, good, awesome. So let me get through this now. This is what's called the common application, okay? If anyone doesn't know what that is, commonapp.org, there's over 1,000 colleges. Most of you will be using this for many of your applications. There are really two major platforms here. There's the UC application, which is a separate application, as many of you may know, and there's the common application. And then of course, there's some schools that have their own applications online, among them MIT and Georgetown, right? But a lot of kids, I would say pretty much most of the kids will be using the Common application. So as you can see, it asks for general information. You can see here the profile, family, education, activities, writing. The profile is generally straight up information. Your name, right? My name here is I'm a boss. And it asks for other names, your date of birth, nothing too complicated there. It's going to ask you for your address, right? My address is I'm a boss Lane in Bosstown, California. I am actually based in Southern California, but you're going to put in your address, nothing fancy there. You're going to put in your phone number for seniors, and later on, if you're a younger student, always put in an additional mobile as well. I know many families don't have home phone numbers anymore, but you want to put in another mobile. And many of you may be surprised to know that colleges may actually call you if you're on a wait list. Or if they love your application so much, they might actually give you a call. If you're a recruited athlete, they may actually give you a call. So have another phone number on there. I've had students get phone calls from admissions offices saying, hey, this is so-and-so from University of Chicago. You've been on the wait list. What do you think if you get accepted? So have that phone number and have an extra phone number for yourself and to be contacted with. So demographics, very simple stuff here. Now these are optional questions, some of these I should say. Whenever there's a little red asterisk next to something, that's mandatory. But if there's not a red asterisk to something, it's not mandatory. Now the question arises, should I put in information that's not mandatory? Generally speaking, yes, because it just makes the application look more complete when you submit it. There's nothing wrong here with identifying pronouns and status of the armed forces. I know a lot of people may have questions about whether or not to check off nationalities and stuff like that. Generally speaking, I don't think, this doesn't really affect admissions as people may think, right? I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know there's a lot of questions swirling around the Supreme Court decision that recently came out, as well as the guidance recently released by the Department of Education and what that means, as well as some of the questions in the applications. But generally speaking, people can get an idea of a student's identity through their essays, their names, and that kind of thing, right? So it doesn't really hurt you if you do decide to go ahead and click off some of these boxes. Languages here, this is some of the more simple stuff again. One thing that I always see students miss is putting in Latin, because it can fall under other. And generally I see students miss putting in additional languages that they've studied. So if you've taken 3-4 years of a language, put that in as an additional language. It'll help you. For some reason, most of the students we work with tend to overlook the additional language that they've studied. So don't forget to put that in and click it off. You're going to have geography, nationality. This is all usually pretty straightforward, right? Whether US citizen, not US citizen. And you're going to come over to the Common App fee waiver if you apply or don't apply. I wouldn't worry too much of the Strive mentor. That's a whole kind of another thing that's part of the Common App. Family information section, again, very simple information. It's going to ask for your parents' information, but take the time to do this properly. Again, the more complete an application looks, the better. One thing that I see a lot of families struggle with is to mention an institution. We work with a lot of families whose parents were educated abroad, and if you can't find a college, if you scroll down here, you can see this prompt here. I didn't see the college I'm looking for in this list. So if you have a parent that was educated abroad, you can always check this off. And then you can go ahead and hit continue. Whoops, it's not catching for some reason. And then you put in the name of the college and the address. And you put in the country and where it is. That's something that always trips people up, generally speaking, in this part of the application. One thing that I advise students here is take the time to make sure you put in a grammatically correct set of responses. You'll be surprised how many people just have bad capitalization when putting in their parents' work, or putting in something like the wrong name of a hospital someone works at, or just generally even putting bad capitalization in with their parents or the colleges they went to. you want to make sure things look nice. And that extends to the easy, seemingly mundane parts of the Common App. Take the time to make sure everything is in there properly and it looks nice. You're going to notice that there is also a print preview button here that you can always press, and that's going to show you what the application will look like to the admissions committees in that print preview format. Now, if you're a senior in here right now, one of the most absolute important things that you need to do, you have got to, promise me if you're a senior here, you have got to print out a copy of your application before you submit it. There is a print preview function in the Common Application where you click, you can download a PDF of your Common App, and you want to print it out before you submit it. Why is that important? I'm going to jump somewhere else for just a second, which is the writing section of your Common App. You're eventually going to put in your main Common App essay here. And when you input your essay, your Common Application essay, obviously if you're a senior or you're a junior, many of you know you're going to be writing a main Common App essay. It's a huge part of the application process. You're going to want to space out your paragraphs. So let's just say you have a bunch of words here. Let's say, it's there. You're going to want to make sure your paragraphs are spaced out properly. This is so important. Now, obviously, I'm not cutting and pasting something in right now, but one of the biggest tips I have for everybody is make sure your responses are spaced out properly in all of the essays that you submit. I see people paste in their essays and it all is just one huge blob. And it looks super sloppy. And if an admissions reader who's reading hundreds of essays, if not thousands, they're just going to look at that and they're just going to gloss over it. So your presentation of the essays are critical. Space it out, your paragraphs, to make everything look really nice. That goes for the main Common App application essay, and that goes for your supplemental questions. I know this may sound a little bit kind of boring to communicate, like, oh, I'm just pasting something in. But believe me, when someone is reading your essays and a 625-word essay just looks like one huge blob of writing, it is not a pleasant thing to read. So you have to space everything out. Moreover, as you write your essays, if you're writing great essays, spacing actually places a lot of different emphasis in areas. So for transitions in your essays, for things that you want to stand out, for things that you want to stand out, for example, like a rhetorical question, you can leave that as a standalone paragraph. And that way it jumps out to the readers more. Now, I know I'm speaking a little bit broadly, but the larger point again is to space things out properly the way you want the readers to read your essay. And there's a lot of little tricks in there with respect to how that also affects the voice of your essay, how it affects the things that you want to stand out to the readers, so something doesn't get buried in a 6 to 7 sentence paragraph. All right, so moving on, you're gonna have the family section, make sure you put it all properly. You're gonna have the education section. You can put in your school. This is all very self-explanatory. One important part here is if you have another high school that you've attended or online classes. If you have switched schools, you're going to get this essay prompt that says, not essay prompt, but provide details about why you left each school. So if you have switched to high school, you just need a simple response here. This is not the place to talk about, oh, I had this major issue with a teacher or something like that, right? Generally speaking, most students will switch schools because parents transferred or something like that. And that's all you need to write, 2 to 3 sentences. My parents or my parent got a job in another state or another whatever, and this is why I transferred schools. Very simple. 2 sentences. You don't need to sit there and write about the difficulty of the transition and what it meant for you. That is not the space to talk about these types of things. Now, if there is something more serious, you may want to address it here. Or, and this is important, you're going to know that in the Common App, there's also this additional information section. There's a question about COVID, and there's a question about additional information here. See this? Where you get to provide up to 650 words to discuss other accomplishments, issues, whatever you want to address. So if there is a more significant explanation for changing schools, you got to stop and think where and how you're going to explain that. I'm speaking broadly again, as I have to do generally in these webinars. Like when we do the admissions consulting, that's when we get into the nitty-gritty of the details and all the different scenarios that can come up with different students. For example, if one student had to transfer because of COVID, you can have a more detailed explanation here. There is still the COVID question in the Common App, obviously added recently after COVID, where you can explain how COVID affected you. But education section there, that's a big one to pay attention to. Now, colleges and universities, you just want to pay attention to what's going on here with respect to what you're kind of sharing. One big tip here I have for you is if you have attended colleges and universities or other high schools, you definitely want to make sure that you submit the transcript for it. Now, a lot of you are in high schools that have dual enrollment, and the grades from dual enrollment will show up on your high school transcript. But if you took community college classes or classes somewhere else through like UC Scout or another online kind of option, especially if you're a senior now, pay attention to this. Take your transcripts, give it to your high school counselor, and make sure they upload it into the application for you with their counselor recommendation and school report. Big tip for you all. If you have other transcripts, give it to your high school counselor, have them upload it. Otherwise, you've got to send those transcripts directly to the colleges from, you have to order the official transcripts and send it in, okay? So some of these things that may seem a little bit obvious, I always catch these things when I'm working with students. Hey, where did you take the class? Where's the transcript? Where is it showing up? If you have any questions about this, if you're a senior, what you need to do is you need to talk to your high school guidance counselor and ask them now for an official copy of the transcript that they will be uploading. We just had this issue with a student a few days ago where they had retaken a class and we weren't sure if the new grade was going to be in the transcript being uploaded. So we just got that whole thing verified. You can't have any surprises here. Remember, your high school guidance counselor is the person that's going to be uploading your transcript into the Common Application. So a lot of these things, again, may seem very simple, but working with students every year from all over the world, we see all these little issues come up. People, meet with us, say, hey, what does this mean? How do we address A, B, and C? And these are all the little things that come up that are not so obvious for every student. So moving on, pay attention to this, colleges and universities, your transcripts. Now, a lot of you will come to this section where it asks about grades. Now, if your school ranks, for example, high schools in Texas rank in part because they have the guaranteed admission to Austin, you want to make sure that your ranking is what is on your transcript. And even if you don't have an official ranking at your school, you could possibly have something here that could be delineated. And inputting your GPA. This depends from student to student. For example, if I have a student that has all A's, I would often say, put in your unweighted 4.0 GPA. Why? Because when you say you have a 4.0 GPA that's unweighted, you've articulated the fact that you've never gotten less than an A. A lot of kids can have 4.2, 4.4 GPAs, 4.5, whatever it is, but they still have 3 or 4 Bs on their transcript. So if you have straight A's, unweighted may be the better option for you, right? Here's a key tip. A lot of students might be higher ranked in their high schools. And if it's not officially on your transcript, Maybe you can talk to your high school guidance counselor and ask them, hey, look, can you write this into the counselor recommendation that I'm top, whatever, 20 in my high school, or top 10, or top 30, or I'm top 5%? Obviously, there's a way to do that, right? You don't want to just tell your high school guidance counselor to do it, but there's a way to politely and respectfully communicate these things so that your high school guidance counselor can put that in. And they can write that stuff into the recommendation. I have a student right now ranked very high. Several students are ranked high in their high school, but it doesn't officially show up on their transcript. So they've talked to their high school guidance counselor. They're going to say, hey, so-and-so, we don't rank, but if we did, this is kind of where they would be. And that stuff is very, very, very impactful in the application process, in part because there is, quite honestly, a lot of grade inflation, right? Like, just think of your high school and how many kids have 4.0s and 4.4s and 4.3s and all that stuff. So anytime something will militate in your favor in the application process, you want to corroborate that factual information by having someone else write about it in their recommendation. In this example, more specifically, your high school guidance counselor. Good? All right. So moving on here, you can see that some of these things that seem very obvious, like, you need to think about it a lot more. Where are you in your high school? What else can you do to show that you're different from any other student? You're going to be putting in your next set of classes for senior year. One of the biggest mistakes I see here is that kids using short form like this. Always put in the official name of a class, AP, US Government, and Politics. Write it out. Whoops, my spelling is looking horrible right now. I promise I'm a better speller than this. Right? Write out the names. AP, US Government, and Politics. AP Macroeconomics. Write it all out. And I also do suggest you write the AP here. Okay? Even though you're delineating it here. When you input your classes, don't forget that some of you might be taking classes that are not necessarily at your high school. Put in the class here. So for example, some of my top students in computer science and math and STEM, they're on the multivariable, they're on the linear algebra, other math classes. Don't forget to put that in here. It's not just the classes that you are taking at your high school. Make sure you put it in properly. A lot of times I see super sloppy kind of responses here and it's not visually pleasing. Make sure it looks nice. Also, some classes will have a first and a second semester. So if you were taking AP US Government Politics at your high school and that's only a one semester class and the second semester is AP Macro, make sure that you put it in sequentially. So when someone sees it, it kind of looks like that, and then you put in the rest of the classes. Instead of putting AP US Government here and then a bunch of other classes and AP Macro on the other side, make sure it all looks nicely put together and sequential in the way the classes are. Now, moving on here, honors, this is really important. I don't know what this thing is right here, but honors, critical part of the application. A lot of students kind of miss this part, in part because they also put in like volunteer awards. This is for your academic achievements, not like service awards. This may be one of the most overlooked parts of the Common Application. If you're a student that has been on honor roll, you've gotten like student of the month in a class, you've got to put that all in. If you're a student that has been in national competitions, if you're a CS student, you've been in USACO, or you've won hackathons, or you're a debate student and you've been in like public forum debate, if you have research publications, these are all things to consider in the academic awards section. And I'm going to give you all one big tip here. Literally, I've got thousands of tips for the Common App here. And this all comes out on the one-on-one. But when you have really good awards, when the objective impact of the award is high, put it in. What do I mean? Let's say you win a silver medal and you're going to say US Computing Olympiad, and I'm just using this as an example because I have a lot of CS students in here, seems like. And we're going to say USACO. You can also say top 15%, something like this. You can say top 15%, right, out of, let's just say about 15K competitors. See the objectively, when you present that information in such a fashion, it looks so much better, right? You have to write out awards in the competition. Believe me, a lot of people in the admissions committees you'll be surprised how little they know. Now, USACO is more popular, they should know that. But there's a lot of competitions out there. So if you're a senior that has been part of stuff, you want to make sure that you present that properly in the award section. If you are a younger student here, rising junior, freshman, sophomore, ninth grader, whatever it may be, you've got to think about the things that can help you here. Having different and unique awards is undoubtedly one of the best ways to stand out in the application process. Among them, by the way, being a National Merit Scholar finalist. And then the way that you present that information is also super important. We've got so many kids who've been in local, national, regional competitions. How do you present that information in the most compelling fashion possible? Again, seemingly mundane parts of the application that requires a lot of thought. I'm going to do something else right now, which is I'm going to jump somewhere else in the common application, which is under activities. And many of you may have an activity here where it's like, let's say academic, and you're going to say president, and the organization name is, let's say, Science Olympiad. Now, let's say you've placed, third place regionals, right? And we write that in, and you say 2022, okay? Some students have more, some students have less academic awards. What I see over all these years is your critical academic awards should not be buried in the activities section. It should be moved over to the honors section for education, your best awards. Because some people may overlook a great award if it is over here in the description. Again, it's really, really important to think about how you're presenting your information if you're a senior. And if you're a younger student wondering, hey, how do I get into these top colleges? There is so much stuff out there that you've got to think about when it comes to your time. Like, where are you putting your time, right? Starting a blog is not going to miraculously get you into a top college, okay? There's a lot of really bad information out there. There are things out there that objectively show where you are academically, okay? You got to know what those things are. By the way, this is just not in this computer science or sciences. There's other things out there for people who are English majors, right? Writing competitions, data science competitions. There's other stuff out there, a lot of it. And this is part of what we do when we work with families who say, hey, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you enjoy? What should you participate in? And this is all part of our planning together. All right. So the awards section, all of that is really, really important. I'm going to move on here. Community organizations, just if you're working with a nonprofit or something, that would go in there. Future plans. Why put in boring stuff, right? If you're a computer science student, this was a sample for like an econ student. Hey, I want to be head of the Federal Reserve. Why not put in something else if you're computer science? Head of NASA, right, whatever. Division of Technology or something, right? Be creative here. You don't have to just say like you're going to be a programmer and check off one of these jobs that are just general. Like maybe a lot of people pick off computer programmer or analyst if they're computer science. And then most people are going to say masters. This is what most CS applicants are going to look like. When I'm working with CS applicants, we'll actually think of something creative here that matches up with their overall profile and their essays and what they're writing about and the things that matter to them. Because you can't just write about, hey, I want to be a CS major and I want to work at Microsoft. Okay, nothing wrong with Microsoft. Amazing company for decades now. We all wish we could go back 20 years and invest in it. But remember, when you're applying to colleges, they want to see something a little bit bigger here. They're like, what is your angle in the application? What do you want to do? Who do you want to impact? Whether you're applying as a social science or humanities major or a STEM major, doctor, computer science, whatever it is, think bigger, right? One of our students last year was computer science, and their whole angle is helping kids out with like Asperger's and autism and how AI can help them, right? It was a beautiful angle. They did some volunteering. We had some really cool stuff in the application, right? So yeah, good question here. Other awards that could go in the activities, but I'll come to the questions in a bit as well. So again, thinking ahead to these things to put together a great application that helps you stand out. Now, coming to tests. Before I get into this, I'm going to say one thing. Testing is critical. Testing is critical. I'll repeat this 1,000 times over again. I know there's a whole lot of stuff about test optional here. The reality is a lot of schools have made the SAT or ACT critical again. Georgia Tech, MIT, Georgetown, Purdue, University of Tennessee system, right? Testing is one of the easiest ways to stand out in the application process. So this matters. Please think about your testing and putting in the effort. Even for the UC schools, which are not on the common application, guess what? The AP exam scores matter a lot. They look at those scores, right? You can input it in the UC application. So testing is really, really important. So I can't emphasize that enough, right? It is mandatory in a lot of schools. My own impression is it's going to become mandatory again. One of the easiest ways to stand out, of course, PrepExpert, we have amazing instructors, amazing in classes. So by the way, hang in with us today. I'm going to kind of present some options at the end of this webinar and also kind of go over all our packages, but I want to get through what we want to get through first and also leave time for a Q&A. So going back here to testing, one of the biggest mistakes I see here is when you put in your AP subject tests. I just put in some samples here. People forget to put in the tests that they're going to take. 80% of the kids forget this. The tests you have taken and then the tests you're going to take. Now, on this note, like everything else in this process, this requires more thought. Do I report a 3? Do I report a 4? What is my angle in the application process, right? What do I mean by that? Let's say you have 3 5s on your AP exams and then 3 3s. You may not want to report those 3s, but then you want to make sure that your highest AP scores also align with your intended major in the application process. So that's where a lot of kind of manipulation can work as well. How do you create a story that is also a nice fit with your test scores, your AP classes, your rigor of curriculum, who's writing your recommendations, all this stuff? Quite often when we work with students, let's say we get their AP scores back at the end of junior year and I see a set of high scores and a set of lower scores, we may report some, not report others, and then go with an angle in the application that aligns with their highest AP scores. And that goes what we call the strategic positioning of the application. That's a whole nother webinar, right? How do you set up applications that build upon your strengths and your activities, your test scores, everything, right? If you got a 3 on AP calculus, you probably don't want to apply as a math major. Which scores to report, which ones not to report. Big part of the process. And again, this is unique to every student. There's just no template answer. We had a student who was ranked number 1 in their class from kind of a more rural state. I'll withhold the name of the state because I don't want to offend anyone, but this kid was literally ranked number 1 out of like 500 kids and they could not pass 1 AP score. All 2s. We did not submit any of the AP scores. Now, colleges say you report what you want to report, but in reality, You want to be careful about what you're not reporting, because if the class shows up on your transcript, some admissions officers may draw a negative inference from missing scores. So again, something that looks simple, something kind of looks mundane, we may say, here's the scores you submit, here's the ones you don't submit, or don't submit any at all. Or let's say you have a high SAT and lower APs, you just submit the SAT, not the APs. We want to make sure that everything makes sense and everything is commensurate with one another, with your grades and all that other stuff. All right, so moving on. You're going to come to the activities section, and you get spaced up to 10 activities. Now, I could spend a lot of time on this, but in the interest of time, because we're 40 minutes in about right now, I'll say a few things. One, the way you describe your activities is critical. They are judging you in this application. They're judging you on your essays. They're judging you on your presentation. They are judging you on how you're presenting your activities section. If something looks super sloppy, it's not, you're going to get lower scores, quite honestly, the impressions of how you present your information. So the activities section, you only get 150 characters to describe something. Now, I'll give you one huge tip here, which is some activities are very self-evident, like science Olympiad, playing lacrosse, whatever, wrestling, basketball, volleyball. Do not write your main Common App essay on an activity that is generally self-evident. Everybody knows what these things are. If you're a golfer, don't write 650 words about playing golf. They already know it, they see it. But let's say you have done like let's say you've done an internship at Bosstown Startup, right? Now, whoops, I did that the wrong place. We'll say organization name is here. We're gonna say intern. Put in a proper description. Analyzed, let's see here, data to determine, let's see here, detection of gas usage. Analyze and determine detection of, let's say, limit of gas usage in industrial plants. I'm just making something up, just totally off the fly right now, right? Publication forthcoming in Journal of blah, blah, blah. You're gonna notice you only get 150 characters. That's not self-evident to someone. You've got to write about it more in your applications later on, right? So there are things that you write about in your essays, and there are things that you don't need to because everybody knows what it is. Now, your activities section is a huge part of the application. If you're a younger student, obviously you want to have a good mix of activities. Some people think that everything should only be related to your intended major. So if someone's a computer science major, you should just have all science stuff, right? You don't have to do that. You can be part of the poetry club. You can be part of Model UN. You can be part of debate. In fact, one of our students last year who got into amazing schools actually won a full ride to Georgia Tech, the STAMP scholarship. They only give like 40 of those out. They were a CS student. They were also like a very well-regarded debater. You know, a great mix of stuff, and definitely help them in the interview process for the scholarship. It's a full ride, tuition, stipend, everything. It's one of the very best scholarships you can get. Another student who won a full ride to Vanderbilt, the Cornelius Scholarship. Also, you know, very well spoken, a good mix of activities. So again, if you're a younger student, don't feel like everything has to be to one thing here. It's actually a bad piece of advice floating around right now, where everyone says, hey, colleges want to see one thing, and they want to see you do everything for that one thing. That's not a good piece of advice, because in your applications, you don't want to make it look like you've only studied medicine for 4 years of high school, and that's it, all your activities, everything, you have done nothing else. My best students have a more diverse profile because later on in the applications, they can write about more stuff. All right, So I'm covering a lot of ground. I'm going through a lot of stuff. The main point here is think about your descriptions. Think about how they relate to your essays that you're writing, what's evident, what's not evident, and obviously also pay attention to the quality of the description you're putting forth. This isn't the place to say you're writing an activity and you say, you know, I was part of Science Olympiad and competed in tournaments. Like that's just the horrible description of what you did. You want to highlight things that you've done. If you're a part of a club, and I'm just going to say whatever, I'm just going to take this out, right? I'm just going to, whatever the name of the club, AI club, right? Or let's say the poetry club, because I've been talking about science a lot. Met to debate and discuss poets, including blah, blah, blah. Name them out. Be specific in your descriptions. That's what stands out. Versus met and discussed poets, wrote poetry for the class or for the club. That's not interesting. Talk about more, be a little bit more detailed here, right? Again, the activity is a huge part of the application. You get up to 10 activities, all right? Obviously, a student cannot do 10 activities full force, 20 hours a week. So if you're a younger student, this is part of what we do with our planning. Hey, how much time are you dedicating where? What is worth your time? You have a limited amount of time. You've got to pick and choose the things that make an impact in the application. And this is part of what we do when we work with the younger students. If you're an older student, then definitely we will put together a great application for you. Okay, help you put together a great application. Okay, lead you through this process. All right. By the way, I'm going to jump over here for a second. Can you guys all see this screen? Can you see this new screen? The PrepExpert Admissions Consulting site? Yes, no, maybe? I know there's a delay on the chat here. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. I think we're good there. So, oh, most people can't see it. Okay, I'll jump to that in a second then. I'll stay on this Common App site because it looks like most people can't see it. All right. So I'm going to move on from the Common App, and I'm just going to show you something here, which is, I'm just going to put in like Purdue, or let's say USC. In the Common Application, you are going to have, you can add schools in the college search. You can put in the dashboard. And when you click here, some schools, I know something's going on with the Common App here. It's getting stuck. But some schools will require you to manually put in your grades here. The reason why it's not letting me show you this right now is because we didn't put in your high school. I'll put in a high school. But if you're applying to some colleges like Stanford, USC, Purdue, you will have to go through and put in your grades, grade by grade, class by class. So don't forget about this part. And now let's come to USC for a second. And for some reason, it's not letting me click here. Let me try putting in another school. Let me do Stanford as an example, okay? I'm gonna add it. I'm gonna come over here to my dashboard. I'm gonna click on Stanford. And for some reason, it's getting stuck. Let's see here. That's not good. Give me a second, you guys. I'm wondering why that is not working here. Give me one moment here. I'm gonna stop the share for just 1 second. And I'm going to log into another web browser and pull it up. Thanks for your patience here. Give me 1 second. A little bit, not sure why that happened, but give me 1 second here. So I'm going to be in this other web browser. So having a technical difficulty here. I can't get into this. All right, there we go. All right. So give me a second here. I'm going to share the screen again. All right, let me come over here. Oh, yeah. By the way, I'm horrible at technology. Great at college admissions, absolutely horrible at technology. Somehow something always goes wrong. Thankfully, my wife is an engineer and she's always around to kind of help me. All right, so understand technology, by the way, I should say, work with a ton of tech students and CS students in biology and all that other stuff. All right, so let me jump over here and share my screen again with you. And we are going to go to Common Application. Okay, we're going to share. All right, can everybody see this now? Yes? Just give me a yes and I'll continue. I know there's a slight delay on the chat. All right, perfect. Okay. So here we are now. You see Stanford? Can everybody see Stanford right now on my screen? Yes? You can see Stanford? Okay, awesome. All right, now all the colleges are going to have school-specific questions. You're going to go through, you're going to click off these questions, entry term, fall, right, decision plan, early action, regular decision, fee waivers if you qualify. These are all pretty self-evidentiary. Yes, you're always interested in interviews. Big thing here, some schools will have optional arts portfolios. Really important here to exercise good judgment because you need to really figure out if you are a student that should be submitting a portfolio. Harvard, for example, says, hey, if you have a truly exceptional talent, share a video or something of yourself. Don't submit portfolios unless you think it's only kind of worth it for you to submit. I think everyone can see here, I'm in the Stanford section here. Can everybody see this? If I go to the short questions right here, can everybody see these short answer questions for Stanford right now? Can everybody see? Can see only dashboard as well. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Let me come back over here. Let me do something, which is, let me close something else out and let me see if that works. Sorry about that, you guys. Not sure what is going on. Okay, how about now? Can everybody see the Stanford one, the questions? Any luck seeing it right now? Give me 1 second. Let me turn on the share screen again. 1 second here. Oh, I see what's happening. It's not letting me switch over to the Microsoft Edge for one reason. Oh, I see what's happening. Got it, you guys. All right, now you should be able to see it. Can you see these questions now for Stanford? I think we should be good now. Can you see these questions for Stanford? Microsoft Edge has been my COVID. All right, so we're good here. Thank you all for your patience. All right, cool. So we got that. All right, so you're going to come to these questions for any college, and they're going to ask the general questions. You're going to fill out early action, early decision. By the way, a huge part of the process is determining if you're applying regular or early action. Regular, early action, or early decision, right? They're going to ask you all these general questions. These are all pretty easy, but this is one of the most critical parts of the application. Whether you're a senior or you are a younger student planning. It looks like this webinar is going to go over, by the way, by at least 20, 25 minutes. So I hope you guys are okay with that. Let's say you're applying to Stanford, you're gonna have to check off your majors, right? And it's gonna ask you to also check off your second choice major, your third choice major, right? Every college is gonna have this, and it varies from college to college. And the reason why this is so important, for example, if I go over here to USC, is that you have got to have a plan for your applications. No matter what the admissions people say, the majors that you choose affect your chances for admission. And you've got to have an angle for these applications. So for example, if you're applying to USC and you're interested in business, you could apply to the Marshall School of Business up here, right? They actually have an artificial for business, AI for intelligence for business BS now. Let's say you're interested in finance. Let's say you're interested in something else like that. That could be a good fit for you. But remember that when you're applying to colleges, you're not just applying to a college, you're applying to the school at a college, generally speaking. So you can check off the School of Business, you can check off the School of Engineering, right, VSC at USC, or you can check off Dorn's Life, Letters, Arts, and Sciences. Let's say you're a student interested in business, but maybe you want to play your odds a little bit. You apply as like an econ major to USC, and then also they have this econ and math major. We call it econometrics. That could easily set you up for a job in like hedge funds or something like that. So choosing majors is a really, really big part of this. If I jump over here to Michigan as an example, and I come over here and I add University of Michigan, I go to my dashboard, I go to Michigan, I go to questions, I go to academics. You're gonna pick the school that you're applying to. It's not letting me do it because I've got to like fill out these questions first. So if I just say fall, early action, I think we should be good. I'm gonna hit continue. And then you've got to pick the school you're applying to. See this? This is critical. Let's say you're a science student, computer science student, you could apply to the School of Engineering, or if you're flexible in the applications, you can go to the College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences. You can say LSA first year. You can say no preferred admission. And you can say no to computer science. You can say no here, and then you can say that your areas of interest are like actuarial math or something. Or you can even put in like data science or something like that. If you're a business student, you can put in, let's say they have a sub-major there for mathematics of risk, essentially, right? Mathematics of finance and risk management. If you're a social science major, you can click off like law, justice, and social change. That's an example of a major that is unique to Michigan. Anytime you're going through those school-specific essays and questions, you got to think about how you're going to stand out in the application process. So you're just going to be checking off political science and history and biology on every single application? Or are you paying attention to the things that are unique to that college, such as the sociology of health and medicine at Michigan? Now, I've been doing this for almost 3 decades now. I know all these things like the back of my hand. It's very easy for me to point this all out, right? When we work with students, this is what we do. Hey, you're applying to this college. This is the major you should check off in the Common App. This is what will help you stand out in the process based on your profile. This is all part of what we do. This is why our students are constantly getting into all these top colleges, because we're thinking it through, right? A lot of families think, oh, college admissions consultants, they're just going to be like editing my kids' essays. In fact, every year we get this. People bombard us in October saying, hey, my kid wrote some essays. Can you just take a look at and edit it? That's not what we do. That's not what we do on the admission side, right? It's something more thought out, concise, clear, and strategized. If you're a younger student, you want to think about this stuff years in advance. What is my major? What am I going to check off in the applications? This is all stuff that we work on years before the application. Now, if you're applying to, let's say, Stanford, give me a second here. I'm going to just jump over here and kind of see where we are. Chat here. Everyone following along still, by the way? Can I get a yes? I know I'm speaking a little faster than I normally do, but I want to cover as much ground as I can in this presentation. Everybody still awake? Yes, thumbs up. Is there a way to do like a party balloon, like emoji or something? All right, cool, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna jump back to this now, and I'm gonna pull up, let me see, I think I gotta change this in the webinar. Give me 1 second here. 1 moment here. I'm gonna turn the screen share off for just 1 second. Okay, there we go, Jennifer, thank you. You got the party balloon, nice. All right, a few last things. When you go through this application, you have got to know that there are additional supplemental questions. I'm gonna just say a few words about this part of the process, and it's super, super, super important. Can everybody see my Word document right now? Everybody can see this? I'm a boss, Stanford? Yes, no? Okay. Whether you're applying to Stanford, Boston University, University of Richmond, Villanova, NYU, University of Chicago, whatever it may be, especially if you're a senior, go through your applications, pull out all the questions and put it onto a separate Word document. I strongly suggest you do not create one long Google document because you're going to have like 30 pages of responses, right? Create a separate document for each college with the questions, and then you've got to think about how you're going to answer them. One of the biggest mistakes that I see students make is that they don't think about their applications. You're going to have supplemental questions. If you're in the UC system, you have 8 questions, you answer 4 of them. If you are in the Common App, you're going to have supplemental questions for a lot of the competitive colleges. And there can be 3 to 4 essays. Carnegie Mellon has 3 additional essays. Yale's has multiple essays. Princeton, Georgetown, which is not in the Common App, they have their own essay. MIT has multiple questions, again, not in the Common App. Whatever, University of Texas, Austin, whatever it may be, additional essays for scholarships. People don't think about that. There are merit-based scholarships at Vanderbilt, other colleges. You've got to think very early on about what is coming into the Common App essay and what you're going to reserve for those supplemental questions. This is what we mean about a strategy. If we're looking at Stanford right now, you have 3 essays here. And again, I just picked Stanford just because whatever, it's Stanford. But look, everyone's applying to a wide range of colleges. Whether it's a Stanford or a Villanova or a Boston College or a Boston University or a Michigan or a Texas Austin or a Northwestern, and the list goes on and on and on. There's a way to write these answers. So for example, if Stanford says the most significant challenge that society faces today, you're not going to say the most, significant challenge we face is blah, blah, blah. It's not the way you answer these, right? You want to pick the right topics. Everyone's on social media. That's the biggest challenge. Okay, we know that. Everyone's going to say something like that, right? Be creative, right? Lack of appreciation for poetry. I'm just making something up on the fly. Who cannot benefit from different prose and metaphors? And you have an answer, something like that. There is a way to respond to these questions that is dynamic, interesting, and helps you stand out in the process, right? When we go through this with the students, we basically work with the students before they respond to these questions. We teach students how to write these responses before they write their responses. Obviously, we can't just write it for you. but we will edit your responses and we show students, hey, here's how you respond to these questions. This is a new one for Stanford. This is also a new one for Stanford. Princeton has a similar response. Brown has a similar question. And you've got to understand the importance of these questions. This is not the place to say your distinctive contribution is that you are a magician and you're great with playing cards. You've missed the point of the question. They're asking a question that relates to something deeper here. I was on a call this past week with a student and they initially had an idea and I was like, they were way off target. They were super excited about it and I said, that's not the point of the question. We can't do that. You've got to know how to respond to the questions. You've got to understand the point of the questions. And you've got to think ahead. You've got 3 250-word questions here. When you go to all these colleges, they're going to have these supplementals. And it's important, give me 1 second here, because I'm going to switch back here. I'm going to turn off the share screen. I think it's harder to switch here. I'm going to turn on this share screen again in a second. I know it's been a while. Thank you all for staying in. I hope you're learning a lot. Turn this screen share on. Give me 1 second. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go over back to Microsoft Edge. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see me that I'm on Michigan right now? Everybody see that? Can I get a yes? Yes to Michigan? Yes, okay. All right, so moving on. All these colleges are going to have supplemental questions. You click on USC, you come down to questions, you come down to the writing and you have all these essays and you have short answer questions, right? There's so much to know about this common application. Like, let's just say we put in NYU, we add it. Let's just add in, let's just say CMU, sorry, CMU, I'm going to add that in, right? Carnegie Mellon. You add it, you're going to come over here, you're going to come to the dashboard, writing questions. They have 3 300-word responses. You've got to think these things through. You've got to avoid redundancy, right? People always ask us, well, what should I write about in these webinars? I can't advise a student on what to write on if I don't know them. It's just impossible, right? But you've got to think these things through to avoid redundancy, write about the right things, and also know how to respond to these questions. I'm going to say 2 more things about the Common App. The school-specific questions. Look ahead to everything, okay? Think about it. Think about how you're organizing your applications. What are the topics? What's compelling? What helps you stand out? How do you present that information, right? Second thing I'm going to say is recommendations. Well, I can't show you this because it's not, I don't have that other information in for the college. Different schools have different kind of criteria with the number of recommendations you can submit and all that other stuff, okay? Now, we're going a little bit over, but I want to cover a few more things. I also want to be respectful of people's time. I mean, this webinar can easily go into 2-3 hours if I really went into more detail, okay? There's so much to cover here. If you're a senior, please think about it. Please think about how you're organizing your applications, your activities. Start now so you are not sitting there on October 26th, like second guessing everything, right? I'm going to just jump over here and go over to, and I'm going to leave a Q&A session right now, so hang in there. I'm going to turn the screen share on, and I'm just going to speak for just like 2 minutes here. Can everybody see the screen now? The PrepExpert website? Just give me a yes. I'm just going to spend a few minutes of this, and we'll go to the Q&A. Yes? If I'm speaking a little fast, I apologize. I'm just trying to cover a good amount of ground in this Common App. You know, I want to be respectful of your guys' time, your own commitment to join. I appreciate that, right? Okay, So PrepExpert admissions consulting packages. We start, as early as 7th, 8th grades. We have a very simple web page. We're actually going to be updating it soon, but our marketing team initially said keep it to one page. It's worked out great. We have 4 packages. If you are a senior or a junior, these are the 2 packages you really want to think about. Okay. The flagship package, if you're a senior, will probably get us through about 8 or 9, 10 applications. And this is holistic, teaching you how to write these essays, showing you model answers, talking about your strategy, completing the common application online. This is all what we do. Like I'm just showing you like a fraction of what we do right now, right? Most juniors and seniors will go with our gold package, 40 hours. Most students are applying to 14, 15 colleges now. Let's say 5 to 7, 8 beach schools, some intermediate schools, backup schools will help with all of that, right? If you're a younger student, this is kind of the package you want to think about, our platinum package. We do have a custom package for people that want more than 60 hours of admissions consulting. Generally speaking, we say start with a package and then we can talk about that if it's necessary, right? Now, if you're a younger student, we'll probably use maybe, about 7 to 10 hours per year, helping you plan your activities, all this other stuff for your applications. We'll plan all of that with you. It's all one-on-one, okay? I do lead a smaller team of consultants. We are not a company with program managers and stuff like that. I'm personally involved with the applications. I have met every single family working with us. Okay, so we're not like a huge company just like churning out students in that respect with admissions consulting. Okay, so if you're on here now and you're a senior and you do decide to work with us, these are the 2 packages. I would urge you to reach out as soon as possible. Younger students, of course, always the sooner the better. There are so many things we can do, just little things we can do to help you shape your applications and give you an understanding of what your end goal is going to be in the application, your activities, your clubs, how much your time you're spending on something, okay? If you are a senior in the process, we do still have some space, and if you do sign up, I will personally meet with you along with one of my other senior counselors. All of our counselors have graduate degrees as well, at least 10 years of experience. And I will also be involved for the first 2 people that sign up within the next 24 hours. If you're a younger student, the same offer kind of stands, which if you sign up within the next 24 hours, you will also be working with me one-on-one, okay? So I stagger out, my commitment year by year and stuff like that. And of course, we have an amazing team of people here. If you're a younger student, we can also include a class at no additional charge with our SAT and ACT, okay? So these are our packages online. We don't offer anything less than this because, as I hope you've kind of seen through this process, like it takes time to put together a great application. And quite honestly, like we just don't want to get involved to just edit a few essays. It's just not the kind of company we are, right? So we will lead you through this whole process. You can go to PrepExpert.com if you sign up here to purchase, okay? And if you do decide to sign up within 24 hours, I will personally email you within 24 hours. Otherwise, if you want to schedule a free consultation, you can just click one of these buttons, schedule a free consultation, okay? So all that is there. You can put in your name and info. All right, so we covered a lot of ground in this kind of Common App review. Questions. Happy to answer any questions for the next 15, 20 minutes. I know I covered a lot of ground now. Hopefully you all found that a little bit helpful, whether you're a senior or a junior. But please feel free to type in your questions. Please put it into the chat so everybody can see your questions. No, this is different from All Access. College admissions is different from All Access. All Access really focuses on, probably the main thing is just unlimited access to those test prep, which is really amazing and a really critical part of the process. Again, please put your questions into the general chat. Thank you all for staying again. Okay, so can USC Cosmos Summer be an internship? Great question. It depends on the application. Sometimes I will list that as an internship. Sometimes I'll list it as an activity. It also could be considered a summer program. I'd probably list it as an activity for the most part though. And also delineate in there, by the way, that it is a very competitive program to get into. So you should delineate the acceptance rate, which I believe is less than like 15%, right? Please put your questions into the general chat. Okay, so do you have something specifically for activities and honors in the Common App in terms of us just helping you with the activities or honors? No. Our minimum package to get involved is kind of that flagship package. Awards activities for sports and music? No, that should go into a separate section, not in the academic section, unless it's an award that also includes academics, right? What about US citizen applicants raised outside US? Yeah, you're just applying for the common application, same thing. Do we work with post-grad students? Yes. So I actually do work with graduate school applicants, law, medicine, pharmacy, MBA, all that stuff. Prior to PrepExpert, I was probably 50-50, undergrad and graduate. Let's see, the Jimmy Awards, High School Musical, that would go into the activities section. Remember, you want to keep that honors section for academic honors, unless it also includes like a sport. Like you can have like student athlete of the month, and that could be based upon athletic and academic achievements, right? Is making an account junior year beneficial for the Common App? No, not beneficial at all. Let's see here, for the section of the Common App about activities, what if you're unsure about the hours? So great question. Again, you want to pay attention to how you're presenting the hours, the weeks per year, and the hours per week. So great question there. You don't want to sell yourself short, but at the same time, you want to make it make sense so it doesn't look like you're doing extracurricular activities for 40 hours a week during the school year, right? So you definitely want to, again, pay attention to the presentation of the information, the hours. Part of what we do is looking through all that, right? When we work with students, we go through the common application. We go through this all in detail. Every last line of the Common App, we go through it. Thinking about the order of the activities, the hours per week, weeks per year, all of that stuff, we do that. All right. For the additional information section, is it beneficial to mention a sport injury? Again, great questions. Generally, maybe you want to explain leaving a sport. If you want to explain it, just leave it to like 2 sentences. But again, there's sometimes not a need to do that. So this is where judgment comes in the applications. You don't want to put in stuff that's superfluous and irrelevant, right? We want to use good judgment on what we include, why we're including it. Do we need to explain it? Do we not need to explain it, right? Best SAT for MIT or Stanford, the best score you can get, okay? Like even Notre Dame rejects, 20-30% of the kids who have a perfect SAT score. So the higher the score, the better. Let's see here. Should activities and honors be listed in chronological order or least important? So great question. Generally, you want to have the activities in the most impactful order, right? If you're a part of a club in 9th and 10th grade and you did it for like 2 hours a month, like obviously you don't want to have that number one, right? So an order of impact is probably the best way to go forward. Someone is just sending a private message. If you have decided to sign up with us, just go ahead and sign up online and I'll personally send you an email within 24 hours. You don't need to schedule another consultation. Thank you for that. Is a weighted GPA above a 4.0 placed in the 5? So great question, Samarth. Keep it on the 4 scale. Your GPA is still on the 4 scale. Should activities, let me see here. I'm trying to see some other question. Okay. So lots of good questions here. I can see some seniors are in here. Let's see here. If you get 3s in the APs, which are not a part of your major, should you submit them for a competitive score? Generally, no. For the most competitive colleges, you do not want to submit anything less than a 4. And even then, sometimes there's a debate about whether or not to submit 4s, right? I regularly work with students who literally have like 10 APs of 5s. So you want to be judicious about what you're submitting to the colleges. But again, this can vary from student to student. If a student has 5 5s and then 2 or 3 4s, I might say, okay, go ahead and report the 4s. Because once they see you've reported some of them, then you don't want them to draw the negative inference that there's only, you might have 3s or something. Again, this is up for debate. It varies from college to college. Some of this is subjective. You can get some different responses here. But this is a judgment that we make as part of the application process, also based upon the school. Yeah, lots of great questions. Everybody pretty much stayed in this whole time. So let's go for another 5 minutes. Thank you all again. Appreciate you all making time. I hope you found this very helpful this evening. I know there's actually a lot more to cover. If you're a senior that has done research, the additional information section can be used to submit a research abstract. And then some colleges like Yale, there's a student here, Chrissy, if you're still here, Yale, you can actually send in things separately directly to Yale's portal. Columbia has the same thing for additional materials. Like there's all the stuff that students can do that's not even obvious in the common application. You actually have to like know the other schools and like where they accept additional information, right? Again, if you're still in here, I'm getting some messages like, how do we sign up? Sign up within 24 hours. I will personally be involved for the first 2 people that sign up within 24 hours. You don't need to schedule another consultation. Other questions here. Let's see here. So a lot of good questions here. Your criteria for submitting or not submitting an SAT, ACT score to a test optional school. Great question, Stacy. It depends on the student. I want to see if the score is commensurate to the student's grades. How does it look like relative to their other academic honor awards? How does it look like compared to their AP scores? And also, what is the school that you're applying to, right? Like a 1450 is not a score that you'd want to submit to an Ivy League at this point, really, most of the time. The median SAT score for accepted NYU students last year, it's on NYU's website, was 1540. So if I don't see a score that's kind of commensurate with stuff, we may not submit it. But then some other schools, like admissions officers, have flat out said, hey, if you have a 1410 or 1420 and above, submit it. So it kind of seems like a simple thing, but we want to exercise our judgment. Sometimes if students have like lower grades, we will submit it at a 1450 because it'll be higher than what their grades may indicate, right? The kind of academic aptitude. So great questions here. Where should I put my Girl Scouts Silver Gold Awards? So, I mean, if that's related to kind of your activities, I'll go in the activities section. Good question here, Anushri. What should you do about honors or awards you plan to receive after the application deadline? Really great question here. Everybody thinks that the applications are over when you submit your application. It's not the case. A lot of schools have portals where you can continue to update them. And if you have impactful updates, it'll definitely help pull you in. Moreover, if they don't have a portal, just email the admissions office. Dear admissions committee, blah, 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 blah. I just want to let you know that all this stuff happened. But again, you want to update them with things that are worth updating them on. So again, you have to exercise good judgment. But last year, for example, we had students who were on the wait list for some schools like UCLA, and they put in an update about their grades and activities, and they came off the wait list. So having an impactful senior year does make a difference in the process. There's quite a few schools that defer a lot of students. And so you want to have something, right? I saw some people interested in MIT and stuff, or Yale, like you're participating in international competitions and stuff like that. Some of those results actually don't even come out till February or March. And if you have something awesome to put in there, you do have the time for it. All right, good. So we covered a lot of ground today. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate your time. Hopefully you found this all helpful. PrepExpert.com, click on admissions. Our packages are there. First kind of 2 people that sign up who are seniors, first 2 people are younger students within 24 hours. you will also be working with me as part of the process. And I will reach out to you personally within 24 hours if you do decide to work with us. I know there's a lot more to cover. I wish I could go through all the supplemental questions, spend a lot more time on tips and stuff. Keep an eye out for some of the other webinars I may be doing. Again, thank you all for your time. I hope you found this beneficial. I know we went over by about 25 minutes, but thank you again. And wish you all have a nice evening. Again, you can schedule a free consultation with us if you have any other questions. I appreciate everyone's time and have a nice evening. Thank you. Thank you.